Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Said Differently. I'm your host, Jennifer Sikora. This is the show brought to you by Troop that focuses on all things B2B storytelling and messaging as we bring our narratives to the market to try to woo those prospects into our pipeline. I am excited today to have our guest, Mikey Mioduski. Did I pronounce that right?
That's pretty dang good, Jen.
Okay.
Yep.
He is the founder of GhostRanch Communications. And the topic today is really kind of digging into the presentation of our story to the market, i.e., most of us think of that in terms of slides, my most detested medium. I got introduced to Mikey years ago from a shared colleague, Deirdre. I'll give her a shout out here, and brought them into a couple clients. Um, and I'm excited to have him talk with us about converting your story into presentation format and
hmm
how to do that successfully, right, Mikey?
Yes, I know. I'm sure people just kind of shuddered as soon as you said PowerPoint presentations, and I totally get it. But
Yeah.
it is just one of those. It's kind of like water, in B2B marketing. It's one of those things that we're all used to using day in, day out, and yeah, we've seen good, bad, and ugly over a decade of specializing in this stuff.
Oh, I have no doubt. Some of mine might be in your ugly category.
No way.
Is that like, so tell me what inspired you to start Ghost Ranch? Like, what was
Sure.
was it because you loved building slides?
Not at all. Yeah, yeah. I wanted to go make Super Bowl commercials. I studied advertising and was gearing up a portfolio to go out to LA or to New York and try to get in with a big ad agency. But then I met my wife who was a Hoosier. She's here in Indianapolis, and so the only job I could get at the time, which was like 2008. So there weren't a lot of advertising jobs open at the time.
Uh-huh.
But I, through a network, stumbled into a startup where they needed just like a marketing intern. And I was doing
Yeah.
lots and lots of graphic design. So I was exposed to everything B2B. And then they got acquired by Oracle. And so,
Mhm.
Oracle had all the resources they needed in the world. They had a
Yeah.
wonderful in-house creative team, but they were rolling up the marketing cloud at the time. So it was Responses, Blue Kai, Compendium, a few others, all under one roof. And so the brand team was really busy doing that. And the product marketers were really busy trying to consolidate all these new decks and the go-to-market.
Yeah.
But the in-house team was too busy to take on those day-to-day requests from the
Yeah.
product marketing team. And so they pulled me in. Just I became kind of their go-to guy for PowerPoint, one-off slides here and there. And I looked up after like 2 years of doing that and suddenly realized that's all I've been doing for like 2 years. And I got the chance to go to a big high stakes keynote at their user conference, and that's where I really caught the bug. I was like, you know what? You can kind of make this exciting. And what I saw was like the more some of these marketers were leaning into the medium, the better results they got, and the more excited the sellers were to actually use the decks. And so I
Yeah.
just decided, hey, if a company this big doesn't have a dedicated resource for this or have this figured out yet, I'm sure others do too. And so just kind of planted the flag, and we kind of went from there.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think your expertise of your agency is going to be going away anytime soon because whenever I ask some of these generative AI tools to convert something to a PowerPoint deck, I'm like, oh, no, 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 that's not
Yeah.
usable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as I kind of hinted to already, slides, whenever I think for me, I have to turn our company's positioning narrative
Mhm.
into a slide deck, I have a severe allergic reaction. I have always personally found it very difficult to convert that, especially into a sales facing or a sales enabled deck. Like
Yeah.
putting your story into a framework for an investor pitch or for some other purpose easier to me. But for some reason, there seems to be this huge anxiety around making it sales friendly. And so
Yeah.
so companies have this narrative or they have their messaging guide and it's usually in some document. It's probably in slides that don't look very pretty. That's an
hmm
internal only thing. And now that has to convert into something that the sales team can use.
hmm
So philosophically, when you guys come in to a client, like how do you even approach what feels like a very daunting task? So, yeah.
Oh, such a good question. And I think it really depends first of all on the kind of the sales motion and setup. As you know, like is it a pretty scrappy, a couple people on the sales force and
Uh-huh.
we're selling one solution, or is it this multi-product suite, all sorts of industries? And so I think we look to the product marketers to have hopefully figured out here's the pieces we need. And we think a lot of times like they will have the approach in mind,
Yes.
whether they sort of want the deck of everything, which will
Right.
be modular, and
Yep.
then they like sellers can kind of piece together what they need for the right motion.
Right.
Um, or if we need one that just works for everything, which I don't advocate for, but it happens quite often. And so I think ultimately, it comes down to is there a repeatable, sticky way to guide someone through this that sellers of all different varieties, and abilities can learn and latch onto? And then, so it's about retellability. And I think all boils down to like a really crisp, clear flow that works for the best seller down to like maybe someone more green as well.
Yeah. And I'm sure you do some discovery at the beginning that says, okay, well, what are you currently using? What's working well about it?
Yeah.
What's not working well about it? But like, do you find it easier to like, do you do you take what they already have as a starting point, or do you often take that as sort of an input, but then you'd rather start fresh, you know?
Yeah, I think we want to hear more voices too. I think
Mhm.
inputs from them. A lot of times these someone it might be a new marketing regime or like a new head of product marketing who comes in and is like, what's going on with with this messaging? Or,
Yeah.
like our first call deck sucks. And so it might be just a fresh perspective and they have their thoughts, but really we'd want to hear from sales leaders as well, even maybe like current customers, like as much due diligence and digging as we could do to figure out like what did resonate, what seemed to be working. The beauty now with gong calls and like so many other recordings is like hopefully we could have access to watch a couple of those to see
Yeah.
ones where they thought we really bombed this or this was actually working pretty well. And so I think as much digging as possible, but also trying to assess the market, what is being said elsewhere, and how are you all trying to position it differently? Hopefully, there's a positioning doc, they
Yeah.
have a clear sense of how they do stand in comparison to others. But if not, then it seems like you'd have to go back a little further
Yeah,
too.
that's true. I mean, it is, I think most companies have it documented somewhere, but whether or not they feel confident about it and whether they feel good about it is a whole other question.
Yes.
And sometimes, but whether you feel confident in it or not, you still have to have that first call deck, right? Like you have to have something to put in front of people.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I like wrestle with in developing these is I tend to probably err on the side of putting too much content on the slide versus
Yeah.
kind of keeping it slim and trim. And so how do you and your team help other teams, your clients, strike the balance between what is visually there versus what is conveyed verbally?
Yep. I think the delete key whenever possible, whatever we could stuff in either into the talk track, or a separate send behind document. So, like if we can help establish, can you have a separate document that's got it's more detailed, there's more content in it, and
Yep.
then you have a separate version that's for presenting. It's like human to human. And as we know, it's like really hard to read while listening and seeing stuff. And so
Yeah.
when we can, for the actual presentation, we like to coach our clients out of thinking about slide count. And that I know why they think about it, because sellers are like, I'm not presenting more than 9 slides or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, yeah. I've been
Right.
given
And so
that strict edict before is like you have to keep this to 5 to 6 slides. Like, oh,
totally. And
okay.
but
Yeah.
some of the sort of presentation thinkers who tend to get it that it's not about slides, but about a rhythm and a cadence and a flow, then 30 slides could look like 5 or 6 slides. It's more about building and bringing the customer or the audience like along this journey,
Yeah.
because you could throw up something like a architecture slide the end state of that architecture is often, as we know, like a big wall, like a big stack and a layer cake, and it's a
Yes.
lot to take in all at once.
Yes.
But if
Yeah.
we can help guide them to get there
Mhm.
over a sequence rather than just all at once,
Yeah.
it's way easier to bring them along so that they can see how it builds, how this feature builds on and talks to this one, and so on. And here's our ecosystem of integrations. So I think really, I'm not talking about like fancy animation, but really just builds, click
Okay.
builds, separating things out onto separate slides and stringing them along, I think
Yeah.
helps a lot. And
Yeah.
then just if there's a wall of text, chunking it down as much as possible. You know, April or Emma Stratton's
Emma Stratton, make it punchy.
Make It Punchy. She cites that American Press Institute study of, I think it's like sentence length and comprehension. And it's like sentences that are like 8 words or less are understood like about 100% of the time. But as the
Mm.
chart goes down, as sentences grow longer to like 43 words, sentences like super complex, they're
Yeah.
understood like 0% of the time. And I think the average word count on a PowerPoint slide is like 40 words per slide.
Oh, wow.
So if you think about that, it's just a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I ask any marketer who's the greatest presenter of all time, typically they'll say Steve Jobs, right? And if you go back and look at his keynotes, he had like 1 word per slide more often than not, if
Yeah.
any.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think it is about embracing visuals that can help show rather than tell when you can be really effective.
I think, yeah, I love that. And I love the some of the stats you threw out there too about like average like slide counts and word counts, citing Emma's book as well. But like I do think there's a tendency sometimes for people to use slides as a crutch that like
Yeah.
I want to make sure I don't forget to convey this message, so I'm going to make sure I spell it out on the slide, right? And so I don't miss it because I'm not going to read a talk track. I'm
Yeah.
probably not going to do a great job at memorizing a talk track. So there's a tendency, I think, for people to put things on the slide because they want to make sure that
Hmm.
that prospect doesn't miss that point. But the truth of the matter is, people only remember a certain small percentage of what you
Yeah.
present to them anyway. So,
That's a really good point. And I think if nothing else, like probably the one thing that um, most presentations get wrong is probably trying to say everything rather than one thing. And I think, that the beautiful presentations you'll see have a through line from beginning, middle to end. They pay off, a setup, there's trials, there's solutions, but really there's a resolution, and
yeah.
there's kind of like almost a campaign type slogan, one core central big idea that is kind of hammered throughout. And if you can kind of control that one takeaway in the mind of the recipient, then you've probably done a better job than 99% of presentations out there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think the other thing I have learned through the School of Hard Knocks with presentations is it may look good digitally on your screen as you're
Mm,
flipping through it and you're reading it in your mind. But then when you actually go to put it into practice and start trying to present it to people, you start realizing certain things don't click, right? And you need to kind of make those adjustments on the fly. What do you and Ghost Ranch, what do you guys do to either prevent those things from happening too often where
sure.
the actual execution of the deck doesn't fall down? Oh, and how do you help folks adjust when it does?
Yeah, I think I've learned this the hard way too. And on one of those big product keynotes, where there's 30 contributors and we're all trying to sort out the script, living in the script format for too long really got us into trouble because then when the CEO or the executive sees it in slide format, the transitions feel funky. And so I think there's a tendency to want to nail the script in Google Docs, right?
Yeah,
But staying there too long um, can slow down the production of the actual thing that you're going to present. And so I think
yeah.
trying to weave a balance. And I think one thing we've seen successfully done is just that split column format where you have text on the left, like a slide or an image on the right as you're creating a document
Oh,
can
interesting.
help. Yeah, and at least get people thinking visually. Like how would we represent this section? Or is this section feeling too long? Should we split it out into a couple of slides? So I
Yeah.
think there's tons of templates online, I'm sure, but yeah, either like a 3 column kind of Word doc where you have a timestamp, key points, and then the visual, or even just like a note on, hey,
Right.
designer, we think a visual about this would be great. Start thinking about the visuals before too late. So I
Yeah.
think that's how we've tried to coach them into that. And then, yeah, so embracing slides earlier than too late.
Yeah, so kind of what you described said differently is almost like your storyboarding, really. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I've gone through that type of an exercise when I've put together, explainer videos or things like that. But PowerPoints aren't really that much different
Hmm.
you know.
But then too, I guess the opposite of this would be just taking the hodgepodge of all those decks we've already done and throwing something together. I do this all the time. Like I'm guilty of just trying to like smash all these slides together and then figure out a good flow. So I think
Oh
that
yeah.
can get you into issues as well because it's not really cohesive or
Yeah, I feel
linear.
like I used to call them, or still kind of sometimes do Franken-decks,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like Frankenstein's monster, where
Hmm. Yeah. No, but that is ubiquitous. Like that is and that's probably why you kind of shudder at the thought of slides because they are so DIY. Anyone can do them. They're so approachable, but that's where we just throw in these bullets and I'm going to read these bullets and yeah,
yeah,
there's not as much thought that goes into it.
it's
Not as
true.
much that we could apply.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like you and I have talked about this because Ghost Ranch and Troop and talking about how we can collaborate together with which is once you've gotten this once you have this story um and you're articulating it now to people, how do you actually know if it's working, right? Like, yeah, there's some obvious
Yeah.
ways to know if it's working. Did you get a next meeting? If you get a next meeting,
Hmm.
great, something worked. But how do you start to measure story and
Yeah.
it's a challenge. You can have a really pretty great looking deck and it doesn't convert, but is that the deck's fault? Is it some other
Hmm.
factor? How do you guys think about that? And how do you think about the work that you're doing for clients, whether
Yeah.
it's impactful?
This is why we're so excited about Troop because we've never been able to answer that point blank question from clients like, how do you know it's going to work? Or because well, we don't have visibility. And
Mm,
so that we got so excited when y'all came along. And we had anecdotes. That's about it. It was like, we'll help a client team prep this new first call deck or a new series, roll out messaging, and hopefully they will get everybody together for a big launch at an internal SKO or something. And we will hear feedback from them to say, oh my gosh, everybody loved it. They're so excited. And that's about all we hear.
yeah,
Or, like they might have, some pretty antiquated downloads from the portal type number
sure.
where that was about all they could track. And
Yeah,
that's
or
about it.
here's how many times the CRM tool detected it
Uh-huh.
in an interaction.
And so adoption by sellers is hugely important. Like, and so first you have to have buy-in from all the stakeholders, marketing and sales agree, this is the deck, this is what we're going to say, here's how we're going to show it. Hopefully they roll it out. We think like, as long as you have to get everyone really excited and feel included in the creation of those assets and the rollout.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're so excited to have visibility because we also know that people riff. Like sellers are going to tweak the
Yeah. Oh,
deck,
yes.
right? And I would too if I was a seller. If I had to wait for weeks and I couldn't get in-house team to like change something for me, I'd do it myself if there's a deal on the line. And because sellers know that personalization matters and that whoever they're pitching wants to see that their industry is represented or their job title and their job to be done. And so yeah, sellers are smart. They know that that's important, but it's not like they have a background in design and
Yeah, true.
illustration.
Yes. And that's where you get some interesting kind of clip art things happening.
Now AI art, yeah.
Yeah, 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 AI art, which is so easy to identify at this
Yeah.
point. Mikey, but you said something that I think I want to kind of come back to, which is the adoption piece of it. So everyone could be really excited about a deck. They can feel it looks great, and it's visually improved, and messaging wise, it's improved. But you might still get some folks who just are hesitant to adopt it because they're either really in love with a deck that they've been using and that they're
Yeah.
habituated on, and they don't have to think twice about it because they've delivered it hundreds of times, and now they have to learn this new thing.
Hmm.
I don't want to learn this new thing. I'd rather keep doing what I've been doing. So yeah, like the adoption piece is huge, but they also need to feel confident that it's working. Like if I am going to adopt this, I want to know that this is working better than what I had before. So yeah.
Yeah. And there again, if there would be some proof, some numbers to show,
Yeah.
then that'd be wonderful.
Well, that's what we're aiming to do. So, what about folks who hate to use slides, though? You guys have,
Yeah.
I'm sure, like I've certainly countered like I hate slides.
Yeah.
I will just zip through them really quick and not even like, and you can tell they hate it and they don't want to use it, or they'd rather just have a verbal discussion. What do you advise there? Do you recommend folks at least have a few that they put up there for like visual reinforcement or
Ooh, that's it. Yeah. Um, Couple things. I think, and I have heard that from, a former colleague, like I forget, slides don't sell. I do, and I couldn't agree more. Yeah. So really, they're even sometimes just going through the process of creating slides, or a new first call deck, it really becomes like just an alignment exercise, as you know,
hmm
whether those slides are used by your top seller who really probably doesn't need them. Like they're so good, they can just engage, have a great conversation.
right.
Maybe they use them as a send behind, right? And I
Yes.
think that's fine. I
Yes.
think they will hopefully raise the floor for that presenter who maybe doesn't quite know the material, they're newer. So hopefully they can do some of the lifting for them. As you said, it can be a crutch. But I think for those people who really are just like, it feels awkward, I don't like presenting slides. Um, I think that's fine. Maybe there's the one slide type though that is like, as you said, maybe more of a conversational type slide. Often
Yeah.
those maturity matrices, where it's like we see clients come, we sell to people at this stage, this stage, this stage. Where do you think you are?
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think that or architecture slides where it's chunky, it's meaty, there's a lot to talk about.
Yes.
I think you can help uh,
It can be used
anyone.
for discovery and
Yeah, and
yeah.
get them talking too, especially, right? And so if there's a slide type that you could just hang up and have a whole meeting over, I think that's kind of important too, because then you can just keep referencing it.
Yeah. You just snuck in a little statement there that I want to punch down on or
Mm.
punch up actually is I think that slide presentations absolutely should be a dialogue too, though. Like,
Hmm.
leaning on them to like, well, let me get you through these 18 slides and then we'll talk. Like, that's not the way
Oh,
to do this. Yeah.
that's such a good point. And I love building in interactions and,
Mhm.
section dividers that are maybe have like a question posed, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
should they should they should facilitate back and forth and
Yeah.
not just be that talking head,
Yeah.
monologue, because that just gets old.
Yeah, as I've been saying, we're still, at least as of now, humans selling to humans. So we still
Hmm.
need to
As of
keep.
now. Yeah.
So speaking of getting humans together, you guys
Yeah.
spun out or you came up with this new idea that saw reality last summer, which is
Yeah.
Story Camp. So what is Story Camp and what's your vision for this?
Sure. It's kind of like a nerdy learning club. I as I got more and more interested in presentations,
Mhm.
I started a podcast. It's called Presentation Thinking, and we've
Yeah.
been interviewing anyone who could who could help us influence our clients, help us become better presenters, better like craftspeople. Um, and what we started to theorize on is that a good presentation has sort of like three legs of a stool. There's good
Okay.
story. There's the screen component, so like the design itself, and then there's stage or delivery. We call it like the three S's. And so we thought, wouldn't it be cool to have? There's these workshops and speakers and authors that we really look up to, and just kind of scratching our own itch. Wouldn't it be cool to get, a speaker on story, one on screen, one on stage, and we kind of have this cohesive learning experience.
Cool.
And we put it together, and we went to Park City. We brought in Terry Zuplat, who was a former White House speechwriter. So he did story workshop. Dr. Stephen Frankenary is a Northwestern researcher and professor of visual thinking,
Yeah.
which was incredible. And then Amy Cuddy, who gave that infamous TED talk on presence and in body language. And so it was a huge hit.
Oh,
We kept it really small intentionally, but we had, nearly like 50 marketing leaders, communication leaders. So anyone really who is in charge of storytelling at a big company or a small
mhm.
company
Yeah.
came and just learned from each other. We had also like some breakout lightning talks where attendees could get up and get a little stage time themselves with some coaching. So
Yeah.
yeah, we've got our second one coming up November 3rd through 6th in Boulder, Colorado in
Nice.
2026. We're excited.
Oh, it sounds like a great program idea. I love it. And it fills a niche that I don't feel like existed, before this.
Yeah,
You know,
hopefully. Yeah, it's really fun, and we've got a
focus on the
really
power of presentation, and
yeah, and I think you know we all realize that like you said, if this is one of the last human to human things we've got, I think the soft skills are going to be such key differentiators for aspiring leaders over the next couple decades. And so they've always been important, and I think it feels like they're becoming increasingly important as as career
yeah.
catalysts.
Well said. I would not say that differently. Good
Okay.
job. All right. So to close things off, Mikey, I have a little quick lightning
Ooh,
round for you.
let's go.
Haven't done this before, but your
I
topic
love it.
seems suitable. All right. Is there a sweet spot number of slides in a sales deck?
Yeah. I know I said slide count doesn't matter, but I'll say about 10 slides.
10-ish. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Animation and builds or no?
I'm super into it as long as they're not distracting. Yeah, I'm super pro build.
Just no sound effects, though. No.
Yeah.
Right.
I like to use really, really cliche, like the spinner one in PowerPoint, but that's just me for my own
All
decks.
right. PowerPoint, Google Slides, Pitch, or something else?
Yeah, I'm team PowerPoint. Google Slides has become way more useful for me too, though. I do a
Mm.
ton of that. Just the
Mhm.
collaboration there is great. Pitch sounds appealing. I played with it. Gamma, same deal. But I think of the new ones, I think Figma Slides is probably the one that deserves a good look under the
I
hood
will have
because
to look at that. I've been
yeah,
using Pitch a lot lately, but I'll
okay, you like it?
but I
Yeah,
I've learned to use it. Let's put it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't dislike it. Yes.
sure. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, it's exciting.
Thumbs up or down animated explainer videos that replace slides.
Okay, I would say two thumbs up. I think they're amazing. I think though I would just say differently. I would say they enhance or they're a good companion to slides, I
Yeah.
think yeah, but animated explainers are such a valuable asset. But I think they should live as a family,
Yeah.
ideally.
Good point. All right, final speed question. What is the storytelling format outside of slides that you're loving the most right now?
Oh yeah. I was gonna just say anything in person. I think the
Mhm.
movement back, especially once we came
IRL?
out of COVID, in real life,
Mhm.
get together. I think panels are really popular right now too because it's just conversation. More people can be represented. So I just really did. I'm kind of over virtual like conferences. I just don't go to them and I don't watch the replays either. I'm just far more into going somewhere.
I love it. Well, hopefully you'll see lots of people going to Story Camp this year. So
That's right.
I'm
Yeah. That would
excited.
be great.
Thank you, Mikey, and best to you and the team at Ghost Ranch, who I love. And thanks for being here.
You bet. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, you bet.
All
Bye.
right.